I'm bringing you a product spotlight of the all-new Scale Trains N-Scale SD40T-2 right now on Ron's Rail Reviews. Hi, I'm Ron, and welcome to Ron's Rail Reviews. I have always personally been a fan of EMD locomotives as a rail fan, and I especially enjoy seeing something from EMD that's a little out of the ordinary, a little bit unusual. Well, today I'm bringing you a review of a model of just such a locomotive, the EMD SD40T-2 or tunnel motor. Now, these locomotives are a little different from your run-of-the-mill EMD locomotives as far as the aesthetics are concerned, and so I'm really excited about digging into this model and seeing what it looks like as it's been brought to us in N-scale by the folks at Scale Trains. Now, I do need to tell you that the models that I'm looking at today have been provided to me by Scale Trains for review, but we've agreed that I will bring only honest reviews and I'll tell you exactly what I see, what I like, and what I don't like. Also, bear in mind that I am showing you these models today straight out of the box. No CVs have been changed and they have not been broken in. So keep those things in mind as we head on over to the workbench and take a look. The SD40T-2 was developed in the mid-1970s by EMD for the Southern Pacific Railroad to combat the issue of locomotives overheating in tunnels of the western United States railroads. The concept moved the radiator intakes down to the bottom of the long hood in order to take in cooler air from lower in the tunnel. Previous locomotives had radiator intakes high on the long hood, so they were recycling superheated air from the radiator exhaust as well as the engine exhaust, causing motors to overheat in long tunnels. These tunnel motors, as the T represents, are most easily distinguished by the large intake grills just above the walkway near the rear of the locomotive and the large rectangular exhaust grills on the top of the hood. 312 SD40T-2s were built for North American railroads between 1974 and 1980. They were a key part of the fleets of the Southern Pacific and Rio Grande railroads in the 1970s and 80s. After Union Pacific acquired Southern Pacific in 1996, many of these locomotives were repainted, renumbered, and absorbed into the Union Pacific fleet. Turning to the model, Scale Trains has produced the SD40T-2 in N-scale for all three of these railroads. Today, I will look at the Southern Pacific and Union Pacific units. They come packaged in Scale Trains' typical sturdy cardboard box with removable lid. Inside, you'll find this fantastic owner's manual with all the information you could want about the prototype, the model, key CVs and features, and much more. The model is packaged inside a plastic clamshell set into a foam liner. Within the clamshell, the locomotive is protected by soft plastic liners. The handrails are protected by foam supports to avoid damage in shipping. Removing this packaging reveals the beautiful paint job of these locomotives. I'm not going to read all of the detail and feature specs of these locomotives, as these are available on Scale Trains' product page for you to read, but suffice it to say that Scale Trains has become synonymous with high-level detail on great running locomotives, and the detail on these locomotives does not disappoint. Some of my favorite details for these locomotives are the see-through grills, especially on the dynamic brake fan housing and the radiator intakes. In fact, the intake grills allow you to see all the way through the locomotive as you can on the prototype, as you can see in these photos. I checked the locomotive for basic standards compliance and found that all the wheels were in gauge, the couplers and trip pins were the proper height, and it was pretty much ready to run right out of the box. My one real concern about these locomotives was revealed when I weighed them. They weighed 3.3 ounces each. The average for modern 6-axle locomotives in N-scale these days is between 3.8 and 4 ounces. These come in a full ½ ounce lower than that. I was concerned about what this would mean for track adhesion and thus pulling capacity, and we will come back to that issue in a few moments. Before I go on, let me say that here on Ron's Rail Reviews, I bring you model railroad reviews and hobby news. So if that's your thing, be sure to subscribe down below and click the bell icon to catch future videos. I took the locomotives to my layout and performed slow speed tests. As is often the case with new DCC locomotives, at speed step 1, the SP locomotives moved, but with a kind of herky-jerky motion. This problem often solves itself once the locomotive is broken in a bit, but you can also raise the voltage for speed step 1 a notch or two and solve it. Even with this stuttering, at speed step 1 they moved consistently at 1.7 scale miles per hour in both forward and reverse directions. The UP unit wouldn't move at all at speed step 1, though it wanted to. All of the locomotives ran smoothly on speed step 2 at 3.3 miles per hour in both directions. I conducted coupler tests with both Microtrains and Accumate couplers and found that these couplers coupled with them consistently at slow speed. I tested the pulling capacity of the locomotives. My usual test for 6-axle locomotives is a train of 24 cars on a flat grade through a couple of turnouts and an 18-inch curve as it comes out of the south end of my main yard. Most locomotives will accomplish this just fine, but this locomotive lost traction. I began removing cars until I got consistent results and found that a single locomotive in this case would pull only 16 cars. I investigated the issue a bit further by pulling the shell off of one of the units to have a look under the hood. I discovered that the frame of this locomotive looked a bit different from what I've been used to seeing in scale trains in the past. I don't know for certain, but I suspect that they redesigned it for this locomotive to allow you to see through the intake grills. Here is the frame from the recent AC 4400CW from Scale Trains. You can see the difference, and though it doesn't look a lot different, it amounts to a half-ounce less weight and significantly less tractive effort. Finally, I tested the two Southern Pacific units in consist. Being the same mechanism and decoder in each, they should run together out of the box, but this isn't always the case. Here, however, you can see that they ran together perfectly. Also, in consist, the two locomotives ran smoothly as a pair at speed step 1, which I found really interesting. The pair pulled my 24 cars through 2 turnouts and around the curve with ease. They also shoved the same train through the same trackage smoothly and easily. Now, take a listen to the basic sounds of the locomotive. Finally, here are some still shots of these locomotives and their details. Overall, these are beautiful locomotives that run well and sound great. There is the weight and tractive effort issue, but if you run short trains or if you run these in multiple unit lash-ups, I don't think you'll have a serious problem. If you run Southern Pacific or Rio Grande from the 70s through the 80s, or if you run Union Pacific in the 90s and early 2000s, these locomotives would make a nice addition to your layout or collection. As of the recording of this video, these locomotives are available at scaletrains.com, so be sure to check them out. Also, check out the links on your screen right now for more locomotive reviews or Scale Trains product reviews, and watch for coming videos here on Ron's Rail Reviews. 10, Lizzie?